All right, ladies and gentlemen, today's date, Thursday, December 11th, 2025. It's almost Christmas, but we got some fireworks of a story that has been going absolutely viral as far as with Michigan and Sherrone Moore. I wanted to talk about, obviously, the timeline. I wanted to get into as far as different things that have been said and obviously digest the story with you guys. So make sure you, of course, hit that like, hit that thumbs up. And of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you do subscribe, click that bell, turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss a stream. All right, so a couple of things that I wanted to dive into, particularly a quick conversation that Shannon Sharpe actually had on his nightcap show. Let me just pull this up here for you guys, and we'll get into this one fairly quick. Fairly quick.
Something is that you've heard. You never think a situation like this can happen to you, even though you're doing what you've heard about. Nah, this is gonna be different. She ain't like that. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna get out. Don't nobody know but her and I. Blah blah blah. And I can imagine 6-7 months ago, I went through something very similar. So I know what that storm is like.
Yes, sir.
And unless you've been in it, that's why when people say, this is what I would do, you don't know what you do until you in it. Until you in that pressure cooker, until you in the eye of the storm.
Yes, sir.
Until you in... Ocho, you and I have had a conversation. So
yes,
you know.
Mm-hmm.
To be in that storm, and
Crazy.
to know everybody know everything that you worked your entire life for.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it like it's crumbling right before your eyes.
Gone.
So, the whole thing about the storm is this, right? If you don't get in the boat, then you don't have to ride through the storm, right? If you don't get in these kind of situations and involve yourself with these kind of people, then you don't have to worry about the storm. The only time that you have to worry about the storm is if you involve yourself in these kind of situations, which nine times out of 10, you probably know that you shouldn't be in, or you shouldn't be around these kind of people, or you probably shouldn't be involved with these kind of people. We see the story time and time again. So, to hear something like this from Shannon, sure, I guess he could be, one of the individuals who could potentially give some kind of advice and, potentially, give a message to Sherrone Moore in this kind of situation. But at the end of the day, we don't want to hear it from Shannon Sharpe at all. I mean, yeah, you lost a big bag because you made a decision, and Sherrone Moore is as well. We're going to get into that later. But I think just, hearing this situation from Shannon Sharpe is just as crazy. It's because if you guys are OGs in the game, right? That's how we're going to start. You guys are OGs in the game. You've been doing this a while. You're influencing other people, right? You're supposed to be leaders in the industry. And to be leaders in the industry, you guys are, supposed to be influencing the younger guys who are following in your lead. And so when I hear people say things like, oh man, I can tell you about this specific situation and that, it's more of a, okay, yeah, you showed us what not to do, but how about not doing it in the first place? Because that's how you don't get involved with these kind of situations. And right before Christmas, have to go and tell your wife and your kids, acknowledging the situation that now you've had an affair on their mother and on your wife, and now you've got fired from your job and you've lost $14 million potentially. Obviously, a lot of this is alleged, but we're gonna break it down. We're gonna break it down. Before we do, let me hop into the chat real quick. What up, Reverend? Shout out to you, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Dante in the building says, afternoon, young man, sir. Sherrone getting caught up in the snow and should have known better. Keep up the great work and watching while having lunch outside on the sunny, beautiful 77-degree day. What up, Dante Rose? Shout out to you. Listen, I think that the big problem is understanding what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing, right? And we know that people make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But there is a line that's drawn between making mistakes and just being foolish or stupid, right? This crosses that line. You got a family, you're influencing young players, you're a coach, you're responsible for so many men in your life as far as being a leader. There's really no excuse that you can make out of this situation. And I think that's where the line gets drawn as far as, being able to play the victim mentality. Sherrone said that he felt that people were after him. Well, if people are after you, why would you give them anything to have on you, let alone investigate on? But let's go in and get into this one. Let's get into the story. Like I said, there's a lot to digest here. And let me pull this up. Here we go. All right. It says fired Michigan coach Sherrone Moore in custody. No decision on charges. So it says former Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore, who remains in custody as suspect in an alleged assault, is expected to appear in court for arraignment on Friday. The Pittsfield Charter Township, Michigan Department of Public Safety announced Thursday. It's super bright in here, y'all. My bad. Let me bring this down just a little bit so I can see what's going on. All right. The Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office told ESPN that it does not expect a decision Thursday on whether to file criminal charges against Moore. Authorities have yet to release details about Moore's arrest, other than to say that he remains under investigation. Moore was incarcerated at the Washtenaw County Jail on Wednesday, just hours after he was fired after the Wolverines football coach for what the school said was an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Goes on to say that the matter involving Mr. Moore remains under active investigation by law enforcement, and as a result, we do not expect charging decisions or an arraignment today. The Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office spokesman on Liz Mack said Thursday, Mr. Moore remains in custody at the Washtenaw County Jail. So my thing is this, if you haven't, created charges or formally have charges for him, why is he still being detained? Why are you still holding him? Maybe someone could let me know in the chat as we keep it going. It says Moore was initially detained by police in Saline, Michigan on Wednesday and turned over to authorities in Pittsfield Township for investigation into those potential charges. Michigan fired Moore on Wednesday following an investigation into his conduct with a staff member. Head coach Sherrone Moore has been terminated with cause, effective immediately, the school said in a statement following a university investigation. With credible evidence was found that Coach Moore engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Now, when this story broke, everyone thought that he was arrested for the relationship. That didn't happen. He got arrested for a situation that happened off campus, just to clear that up. It then goes on to say the university initially investigated Moore this fall after receiving a tip about the situation, but did not find credible evidence of wrongdoing, a source told ESPN. More information came forward Wednesday that the source was overwhelming and led to Moore's immediate dismissal. Moore, 39, spent 2 seasons as Michigan's coach and served as the team's offensive coordinator. So, yeah, there's a lot, obviously, that goes into this and this situation specifically when it comes to, how this thing was investigated, all the information that led up to this point that basically, Michigan said, hey, it could have been a situation where they're like, well, we're winning. We're going to investigate it while things are going good. I think Michigan's 9-3 at this point. So I think that the question comes into why they take so long to make this decision if they knew about it back in the fall. And, why did they decide to drop it until now? But let's go back into the timeline here as far as with the Moore situation itself as I break this down. So if we go way back, there was a situation with Moore involving, obviously, misconduct, right? There was a self-imposed suspension to soften NCAA penalties. This was during the situation with Harbaugh and the cheating scandal and the sign stealing and all that. He was involved in that situation. The school defended Moore and then basically gave him the position to be head coach after Harbaugh left. It then goes on to say that obviously you get, some big wins, but the off field issues has become harder to ignore. Another couple key points. Let me just go back through here. It says December 10th, Michigan had terminated Moore with cause, clears the school from paying a buyout. Oh, just is, this is a big part of it, right? The $14 million. So it goes on to say that by them getting rid of him for this issue, which is basically in the clause and school standards and rules and conduct, that they were avoiding giving him the buyout. So they knew about this situation when it happened. They waited, obviously, because the team was most likely doing good. And then at this point, they're like, hey, we've got overwhelming evidence. We're going to get rid of him so we don't have to give him this big payout and, base it on this. But I think the big part of this situation and why it's so detrimental to his family is this young girl is allegedly pregnant from this situation. So not only did you have an affair on your wife, but you got this young lady allegedly pregnant, you got fired, and you're potentially losing out on $14 million right before Christmas, right? And this is a very significant situation because it reminds us of the Petrino situation that happened so long ago with a little bit of the Urban Meyer timing, right? Very abrupt, right? Investigation. We see this situation. It's happening. We're going to go ahead and get rid of them. And there it is. So, yeah, this is obviously Thursday. He's still locked up. We're going to have to figure out as far as, what's going to happen to him and how this situation plays out. But as far as for right now, obviously it's not looking good. Everybody's talking about it. I think one of the biggest problems too is we got to hear his side, right? We haven't heard anything from him. We haven't, got much information as far as the motives behind it, why he did it. But to be honest, I don't think, there's anything he could say at this point, right? If everything's out there and everything's accurate for the most part, there's not really much that he's going to be able to say to fix this issue. And if anything, he's most likely going to have that conversation with his family and fix whatever he can there. With that said, I'll try to keep you guys updated as much as I can once we get new information. Overall, I think it's sad. And unfortunately, I think you got a situation with, Michigan football players because they're going to be affected by this as well. What's going to happen? Are they going to jump ship? Are players going to leave? Michigan's having a decent season. They're 9-3. Heading into the bowl games, I think this is just terrible timing. So you may see some players want to get out of there, not deal with the issues of this organization. And it's sad because Michigan was one of the, the most prestige colleges that you'd want to go, and their football program is immaculate. Without, all the issues and the scandals, obviously. But, I don't think there's another college football team besides maybe Ohio State that gets more recognition for football than Michigan. So, yeah, this is going to be, tough to digest for a lot of people, especially the players and the family. We'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you hit that like and, of course, subscribe. See you on the next one. Peace out.